Greetings, I'm John the Spirit.
I'm Arch Ezekiel.
This episode took our blood, sweat, and tears, and welcome to Ultimate Alchemy Recap Supershorts. We are going to talk about a bunch of random stuff in this episode because we did a bunch of random projects at once. We finished exactly one of them, but there was progress made toward all of them. But our first project, which is actually one that gives us progress, is emeralds. If you do some JEI searching for emeralds, you realize that you can cast them from molten emerald in a gem cast, and molten emerald you can get from squeezing paper wealth. Paper wealth has two recipes, one of which involves gold coins, but to get gold coins you need a numismatic press, which requires emeralds in the first place, so you have to have money to make money. Unless, of course, you use your blood, sweat, and tears. To make coagulated blood, you can stand in a smeltery and get hurt a bunch, and eventually, once there's 160 blood in the smeltery, which is now...
Why
Arch
not?
died trying to record that bit, but I had turned it off.
Uh,
Poor Arch, dead now. But now we have blood from a molten player, so we can right-click on a faucet to get the coagulated blood in a casting table. Arch is making more chickens. To get the sweat-drenched cloth, you need to make a cloth from a bunch of string, and then right-click to cool off. To get the player teardrop, to determine how to get the player teardrop in the first place, it's actually, the information is in information under just enough items. It says a single tear shed by a person feeling deep sadness and gives a hint about a one-legged puppy. There is a crafting recipe for a drawing of a one-legged recipe. Right-click to totally not cry. Arch, do not cry. Arch is crying. And then once you have all those things, you can make your paper wealth, melt it down into your molten emerald, cast it into an emerald, and then make your numismatic press. You put the numismatic press into a compactor, and then you can turn gold into gold coins, and you can turn those into paper wealth. To get the cactus green, we set up a system similar to our sugarcane, but we had to put the mechanical miner on top of the cactus, because if you put any blocks next to the cactus, it won't grow into those spots. Arch, please stop killing yourself on the cactus. I think he's just going to stand there until he dies. Anyway, the mechanical miner is full of cactus now, and Arch is... Wow, Arch survived. Good job. Arch was slain by Iron Golem... Oh, we'll talk about the Iron Golem later. Yes, there is a whole village here. Why? You'll find out later. Arch got revenge on... Oh, wow. Hey, Arch, you're spoiling them. Okay, so you may be wondering, what is all this Thaumcraft stuff here? We won't talk about all of it now, but we did need to start Thaumcraft. The classic start to Thaumcraft in 1.12 involves collecting one of every Vise crystal, or one of at least one Vise crystal, and then sleeping in the bed once you get quote-unquote strange dreams. To get those crystals, in this mod pack, you can use a Rune of Balance and Elven Trait, and it gives you one of every type of crystal. The Rune of Balance itself can be made, for some reason, with a terrestrial recipe, or with the Runic Altar, using infused grass and mutated grass. To make the infused grass, you can use mutated grass with a pure daisy, and I'll show you this automation system later. To get the mutated grass in the first place, you need dirt around an eerie mask. We have put an eerie mask into a refined an RF Tools crafter, which leaves remaining items inside the input section of the crafter using XC, and then turns dirt into mutated grass. That way, the refined storage system does not try to create 5 million eerie masks. The eerie mask is reused. We've also got a cute little runic altar automation system right here that's making the runes of balance, which I'll show you later. In order to get your first crystals, just throw the rune of balance in, and you'll get them all. You'll get a message from Thaumcraft that says you'll get strange dreams if you sleep in a bed, so just wait for it to become nighttime and sleep in a bed. And then you'll get a book called Strange Dreams, which basically says to put Salus Mundus in a bookcase. This is, notably, something you cannot do before you get the Strange Dreams message, so you really have to pick up these crystals first. Salus Mundus does not need to be made the normal way. This mod pack provides several ways to get it. For example, if you pulverize any of those crystals you get, you have a 20% chance of getting Salus Mundus, but you can also crush Lavender Quartz. Lavender Quartz is mana quartz around any kind of magenta dye, and mana quartz is just nether quartz in a mana pool. Once you have the Salus Mundus, right-click on a bookshelf, and you will get your Thaumonomicon. Now, you may think, oh, now I need to do so much research? No, no, no. We have been graciously provided a Thaumcraft Alchemy cheat sheet, which you can make just by throwing paper in the Elven Trade, and it gives you a bunch of the early researches you need, including all relevant researches to automating Thaumcraft Alchemy, which you need to do in order to automate nether stars if you want to complete the challenge of truly automating true clay, because nether star can be duplicated in a crucible with all of these bits, and you need Thaumcraft Alchemy to do it. Glances at Tower of Carpenters. We'll talk about that one later too. Anyway, later, when we do more actual Thaumcraft stuff, I'll tell you about it. But you can get a crucible from Thaumcraft by applying Salus Mundus to a cauldron, and you can get an arcane workbench from Thaumcraft by applying Salus Mundus to a crafting table. Why did we start Thaumcraft so early anyway, though? It was useful to get this crucible so we could make a certain recipe. We needed bones, and I'll tell you why. Look at all these villagers. None of them are the villager we want. The villager we want is the engineer villager, who will eventually give us engineer's blueprints, specifically for arc furnace electrodes, which we'll need. I'll talk about that later. But to do that, we need lots of villagers. And in order to spawn villagers in the first place, there is an item from Botania called the Cocoon of Caprice. I happen to have one right here. I'm not going to place it down because it spawns a bunch of passive animals. Just kidding, I actually am going to show it off. Arch has given me gracious permission to spew 5 million animals and villagers into the world. The Cocoon of Caprice requires pixie dust, mana weave cloth, and fell pumpkins, which require bones. To get bones, you need to throw a stick in a crucible with Mortus Essentia. And we got all of our Mortus Essentia from bone meal, by shoving bone meal into the crucible. To get Essentia into the crucible, you can throw an item into the crucible to dissolve it into the Essentia you want. And then to do a craft, just throw the item that you need to put in, and you get your bone. But you're left with a bunch of extra random Essentia. What can you do with this? If it gradually evaporates, it turns into flux in the world, which can cause some problems. In order to collect it, you need 1 quartz sliver for every 2 Essentia. Quartz slivers are made from quartz in a crafting table, and you can see things are evaporating already, but as I throw in these quartz slivers, I get back Vise crystals representing the Essentia shown. Note, I can only see what's in this crucible because I have goggles of revealing, or a thermometer. The goggles of revealing can be made in an arcane workbench, which I mentioned you get from putting Salus Mundus on a crafting table. You just need leather, alchemical brass, and thermometers. Thermometers are also made in the arcane workbench, with gold glass panes in one of every Vise crystal. Crafting recipes in the arcane workbench also require something called Vise, which is a chunk-based resource that gradually refills after you use it by drawing from nearby chunks. You can see that right here we have 180 available Vise. And we need 20 to make the thermometer. The Vise crystals go into these colorful slots right here. To make the alchemical brass for the goggles of revealing, you need iron and instrumentum. A good way to get instrumentum is from flint. Flint has 5 instrumentum, as well as 5 earth or terra, so you don't get too many extra random essentia if you do this. And once you have the goggles of revealing, you can freely see all the essentia in a crucible. Right now, we have none in here. Once you have bones, those have Mortus, and they have slightly more Mortus than it takes to make them, so you can use them in an infinite loop, instead of having to use bone meal or something like that. Anyway, once you have that bone, you can make your fell pumpkin, and then you can use that to make the Cocoon of Caprice. In order to use the Cocoon of Caprice, you can place it down, and it'll just work slowly on its own, but if you put an emerald in it, it may produce villagers when it finishes. If you right-click it with an acceleration wand, it'll make a lot of animals when it releases. Usually it'll only make 1 or 2. It should work pretty soon. I don't know what's taking it so... There we go. Look at all those things. Look at all those villagers. Anyway, we have done the Cocoon of Caprice 4 to 6 times by now, and we still have not gotten our engineer villager, so you should start this early, which is why I'm telling you now. We also have so many doors, and they all have quote-unquote roofs, so that the villagers will breed if we give them food and give us more villagers, so we don't have to do the damn Cocoon of Caprice every time. A benefit of this, though, was getting cows, so we could get milk more easily. As another method to get the potatoes, for the villagers to breed, we have a bunch of mechanical users, 4 mechanical users lined up to tick accelerate potatoes as much as possible. And then we just give so many of them to the villagers and hope, beyond hope, that they will breed. And they're breeding slowly. Why are you letting them all into 1 stack? One villager is going to pick all of them up, Arch. Apparently, they throw the potatoes at each other. That's great. Oh yeah, they're literally doing it now. They are just spreading the love. Anyway, the hope is that they'll breed and make some new villagers, and one of them, one day, will be the correct kind. Also, I don't think they breed in the day, and we keep forgetting that, so we just waste breeding time. It's terrible. Okay, now that we finished with that thing, which is mainly what we were doing Thaumcraft for in the first place, it's time to talk about all the other random stuff we did in preparation for our other project, Immersive Engineering, which we will not talk about for like several episodes because we still haven't gotten the damn engineering villager. But we will talk about some of the interesting stuff that we made that is helpful for other reasons. First, let's talk about replication of blazing pyrotheum. Blazing pyrotheum can be replicated by melting lava in a magma crucible. So we just set up a magma crucible, is it right here? Yes, that turns lava into blazing pyrotheum. Why is that? Because blazing pyrotheum can be used in the Pyro Concentrator. If you use cinnabar and an ore in the Pyro Concentrator with blazing pyrotheum, you're guaranteed to get 4 items from that ore, and in certain cases, you also get a 100% chance of the byproduct. This is good in the case of, for example, getting iridium. The best way to get iridium, which you'll need later, is from platinum ore with cinnabar and blazing pyrotheum in a Pyro Concentrator. It's also just a great way to get a lot of yield out of your ores. For example, if you're trying to get a lot of aluminum ingots. And you might be trying to get maximum yield if it's really, really, really hard to make aluminum ore. And I mean, okay, it's not that hard, but it's annoying because you get the only way to get aluminum ore is to pure daisy iron ore. And iron ore is a block of iron casted on top of stone, which, I mean, it's not a lot of iron, we have tons of iron, but it's slow and annoying, even with an acceleration wand. So I just wanted to get as much yield out of it as I could, and I knew that making the Pyro Concentrator wouldn't be the worst way to do it. To make the Pyro Concentrator in the first place, however, you need signalum. And signalum, thankfully, is not terrible. Once you get signalum blend, you can melt it into signalum and cast it, or you can use an arc furnace, which we don't have yet. Okay, Arch has just revealed to me something very important, which is that you can use a pure daisy and a block of iron to get a block of aluminum. So everything I just did was useless, but okay, fine. I'm glad you all know this very relevant information now. You unfortunately cannot do that for iridium or platinum blocks, but it's nice to know that it works for aluminum. Oh no, well anyway, back to the ultimately fruitless quest that I didn't need to do, but is still useful later on. I needed to make signalum, which requires copper powder, silver powder, and destabilized redstone buckets. Destabilized redstone is not the kind that you make when melting redstone in the smeltery. You have to melt redstone in a magma crucible to get this. Once you have your Pyro Concentrator, you can put it in the induction smelter. The induction smelter will accept blazing pyrotheum and can start doing work. The one other thing I wanted to do to get maximum output, however, was use cinnabar. To get cinnabar, we're given a lovely little recipe where you can cast mercury onto resonating redstone crystals. To get mercury, you need to fractionating still silver. So we set up a cute little automation system here. A magma crucible receives silver. It's receiving none right now, but that silver melts into molten silver. The fractionating still slowly turns it into mercury, which is why I added these auxiliary reception coils. The fractionating still outputs its fluids into this casting table, which currently has a resonating redstone crystal inside of it, thanks to this cute little exporter below it, which adds the resonating redstone crystal. This importer pulls out the cinnabar. Thankfully, the importer does not pull out the resonating redstone crystals when they're in there. We turn off the silver export using this detector as soon as there are at least 64 cinnabar in the system. And with the cinnabar, blazing pyrotheum, and aluminum ore, we were able to get lots of aluminum, which we haven't used yet, but maybe one day. The mod pack provides you the ability to get all the other types of theums as well. To make blizz powder, blitz powder, or basal's powder, you can pour essence of knowledge on some relevant ingredient in the fluid transposer. And to get essence of knowledge, you can just magma crucible statues of the thinker. Incidentally, Essence of Knowledge fills up the thermal expansion Tome of Knowledge, which allows you to get experience levels from that Essence of Knowledge, so you can just get free experience using Statues of the Thinker. This is, however, a very slow recipe, which is why there are auxiliary reception coils inside. The last thing I'll talk about in this episode is how we automated ender pearls. We have a recipe here that turns 40 ender shards into 4 ender pearls. However, when the ender shards initially go into the smeltery, they turn into soggy ender pearls, and we have them casting in this casting table, which has a pan cast in it. The system we discussed before works as originally. The 4 soggy ender pearls appear in the chest using a flat transfer node, the inventory reader checks it, and then it gets imported into the system. But in order to get actually turned into ender pearls, we export all soggy ender pearls automatically into this chest, and transfer nodes pull the soggy ender pearls into the drying rack. Transfer nodes, thankfully, do not pull out items that are currently processing in the drying rack. So the soggy ender pearls don't get pulled out by these transfer nodes, but the real ender pearls do. Each of these mechanical users has, of course, an acceleration wand on fast so that we don't force these drying racks to go through too many ticks. They're not constantly making ender pearls anyway. And then we import the ender pearls from the chest, and the crafting recipe is completed. Anyway, I think that's all of the random automation stuff we have done before I get into the cool Botania automation stuff that we will do in the next episode. So for now, that's it for today's episode. As always, if you have any comments for the viewers on on tips for this mod pack that we haven't covered, please let us know in the comments. I will once again not say we welcome any feedback, because although we welcome feedback, we cannot implement it, because we already recorded all of these episodes. There is no more recording of them. We will not take your feedback. Anyway, see you in the next one!